last 2 decades have seen remarkable changes in policing. We've embraced the community as we've implemented community-based policing strategies. We've embraced notions of problem solving as we've come to understand the utility of problem-oriented policing. We developed out accountability systems such as CompStat that have allowed us to pay attention to our activities and try to draw useful conclusions between the effect our activities have on crime patterns and trends and whether or not those activities are useful or helpful. Now, as we continue our evolution as a profession, as we continue to build our legitimacy with communities, as we continue to try to become more effective in the deploying of our tactics in response to specific crime problems, one of the challenges continues to be understanding the numbers, what's behind the numbers. It's one thing to know how many robberies or burglaries or car thefts or homicide one has. It's quite another to get behind those numbers and understand the dynamics behind them. And by understanding those dynamics, develop preventive strategies as well as tactics for solving individual crimes. The Homicide Review Commission process has been invaluable here in the city of Milwaukee. It has brought together practitioners from across an array of disciplines to actively discuss homicides, both in terms of individual cases as well as the patterns and trends of homicide that afflict the community. When people read the newspaper or watch TV or listen to the radio, they think about homicide as some sort of unitary phenomenon. There's robberies, there's homicides, there's burglaries. We in the business know there's no such thing as a single type of homicide. It's important for us to understand what percentage of our homicides are robbery homicides, what percentage arise out of beefs and issues of respect and disrespect and revenge, what percentage of our homicides arise out of disputes over drug territory, how many of our homicides are domestic violence, how many of our homicides involve young people, what are the demographics of our homicide. All of these things are important, not just for tactical reasons, but also for the very important reason of explaining to the community just what is happening to it. The Homicide Review Commission process allows people from an array of disciplines to have those discussions that can help inform my discussions as a chief executive. For example, my first year here, as we analyzed our data, came to our attention, as many of you already know from your cities, that an extraordinary array that one particular year of our homicides involved the demographic of black males between the ages of 19 and 26. We did some major focusing on that demographic the next year in terms of the types of homicides in which they were likely to be victims. And in 1 year, we saw that number reduced by 54%. Now, the fact is, without helpful analysis that helped us understand the nature of the problem, our focused tactics could not have had the impact they had. Last year, we found out, for example, that I believe 32% of our homicides are domestic violence. And so this year, we charged each district to come up with a domestic violence reduction plan premised on targeting those high-rate offenders and high-rate victims who generate so many of our domestic violence calls for assistance. And we found by targeting high-rate offenders as well as getting services to high-rate victims, 10% of our offenders are usually responsible for 50% of our crimes, and 10% of our victims are usually responsible for 40% of our crimes. So we've found by focusing on that so far this year, we've cut in half the number of domestic violence homicides by 50%. Now, is there a direct causation? Can't say. Too soon to tell. But certainly there's a correlation that our heavy engagement with domestic violence offenders and victims may well have had an impact on the percentage of domestic violence homicides. Again, without good understanding of our homicide numbers, we're not going to come up with good tactics and strategies to deal with the aspects of the homicide problem in this city. So, as you engage with this process, be open to it. Assume goodwill. Break down the barriers between different units of government that have responsibility for the individuals who find themselves in the homicide matrix. Learn from each other. Listen to each other. Develop friendships. Because people share information with people they know and trust. And the Homicide Review Commission process can build trust between agencies so that those folks at the worker level have trusted colleagues with whom they can discuss in an ongoing way issues concerning their responsibility for homicide. And from the command level, expect good intelligence. You're going to have to work that at your own local level. Initially, you might not get what you need, but keep the conversation open. And eventually, as you understand the homicide dynamic in your city, you'll find yourself developing better mechanisms for dealing with it and preventing it, as well as solving individual cases. Good luck with the process. You should be very proud of yourselves for engaging in this dynamic and progressive method of understanding crime.